Welcome to Unraveling Midlife. I'm your host, Sarah Spence. Thanks for joining me as I explore my own astrological midlife by speaking with all sorts of inspiring people about their life and work. Although the common understanding of midlife is a little bit older, astrological midlife relates to Western astrology transits that run from the mid-30s to the mid-40s for everyone. Each of the four main midlife transits have an overall theme, though details vary by generation and by individual. So astrological midlife really directly corresponds to that term midlife crisis that we hear bandied about. If you're new to the show, welcome. You can follow me on social media, Sarah Marlowe Spence, and you're welcome to subscribe to the show if you haven't already, or share it, because that's how people find out about it. At the end of the episode, I share a track of my original music. There's a link to my website in the show notes where you can find details of upcoming events, often including music gigs or kirtan, joyful chanting, and dream workshops. Now, this Aries new moon is an exciting one of new beginnings since it's only hours after the sun moves into Aries, generally known as the astrological New Year. Happy New Year! A few days later, Pluto moves into Aquarius, which is a big deal in the astrological world, and we'll feel these impacts over the next few years, slow-moving Pluto dancing slowly back into Capricorn for a while, yet back and forth. Now, perhaps it's the famed dawning of the age of Aquarius, age of Aquarius. We shall see. It's a potent week, this Aries new moon for Earthbeat Festival, where I'm singing, sharing, and crowing as well. And just a note, a few days ago, the podcast turned 2. So it's a second anniversary of this podcast's existence. And apparently, on average, people last someone did tell me how many episodes. I think the average was something like 14 episodes, and here we are up to 28. So thanks for being part of Unraveling Midlife. On to today's show, Rebecca Gambles is an animal communicator, animal healer, Pleiadian light work teacher and practitioner, past life regressionist, angelic Reiki teacher, and clairvoyant medium. And as you'll hear in our conversation, she has a story as to how she came to be doing this work, and not to mention the fascinating way she communicates with animals, which is what I wanted to learn more about. And I figured other people would too, which is why I've got her on the show. And it's a really, really cool conversation. So enjoy. Rebecca, welcome to Unraveling Midlife. It's great to have you here. But I do know that we were just talking before we went on air about, like, is it really midlife when it's at this astrological midlife that just happens to be when the planets are at this point in our lives? But is it really midlife? I think we've got a bit of a semantic problem. So maybe, yeah. What? Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm 43. So if this is my midlife, that means I'm going to live to 86, which feels a little bit limiting for me. Like, I feel like I have a capacity to live way beyond that. So I don't associate that this is my midlife. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. I love it. I feel slightly the same, but yeah, it's whether or not, like, okay, I've got a podcast name. I'm not sure I can change the name, but midlife can stretch. That's what I figure.
Well, I'm sure you could change the name if you wanted to as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll think about that.
Yeah.
Tell us about you. You're clearly like me, you're right in the thick of these particular astrology transits that shake up life, but you do some really interesting stuff. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so I'm a Pleiadian lightwork practitioner. I'm a past life regressionist. I'm an animal healer and communicator, angelic Reiki teacher, psychic medium. So yeah, I work one-on-one with people themselves. I also work with people and their animals, and I also teach everything that I do as well. So I run courses and retreats at the moment in New Zealand and the UK, but I am hoping to put all my courses online as well, to teach people to be able to access these gifts within themselves. I'm very passionate about empowering people to live their best lives. And I absolutely love talking to animals because they're also here to help people live their best lives as well, by being in service to them. So yeah.
Cool. Can you say a little bit more about that? I'm curious.
Yeah, so our animals come into our lives often with a purpose. Well, always with a purpose, actually, especially our domesticated animals. So Yeah, they come in with soul contracts with their human companions, and they come in for different reasons. It might be to help their human companion through a difficult stage of their life. It might be to help teach them something. Sometimes our animals have come in to help us with physical disease that we have in our own body. Our animals have come to help us transmute that energy as well. They can actually take our physical conditions from us and take them into their own body as well. So that there's many different ways that they can be helping us in our lives. And yeah, they often mirror back to us the things that we maybe don't necessarily see about ourselves. So one of the things I'm finding quite common at the moment with the people that I'm working with is, I go to see a person and they're like, this is what's happening with my animals. So say the animal's got anxiety, for example. But then when I speak to the animal is actually telling me that the anxiety is the person's that they live with. So they're literally mirroring back to the human their own anxiety, and they're kind of taking it from them and then mirroring it back. And so then the person goes, oh, there's something wrong with my animal, but actually the animal's just reflecting that back to them. So when I go to see the animal, I'm actually telepathically talking to them, so they're giving me words and images and feelings of what's going on for them. So if I have a consult with somebody, I'll go and see the person and they'll say, this is what's happening for my animal. And then I talk to the animal and say, this is what's happening for my human. So it's often a two-way conversation between the two people. They both have their own opinions about what's going on. Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating work. I love it.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Yeah,
Mm.
I'm sure I'm sure everyone's reflecting on animals in their lives and their kind of quirks right now. And how does that reflect
Yeah.
on me? Or
Yeah. Because, you go to some people's houses and it's like, oh, I've got this cat and she hates anyone come to visit. She goes and hides under the bed. She doesn't like it when people come to visit. And I'm like, do you like it when people come to visit? Oh, no, I'm such an introvert. I hate anyone coming to the house. And I'm like, there you go then. Your animal's just, portraying the same behavior as you. So they're totally reflecting that behavior in you as well and showing you what you actually want or desire.
so I don't have a pet, but I end up doing quite a bit of dog sitting. Does that end up mirroring me?
Yeah, so I also pet sit as well. And what I find is, you know, and I call people human companions because I don't like the word owner. Sometimes I'll say owner because, people understand that owner, but we don't really own our animals. They're not our possessions. So I don't really like the word owner, but I do use it sometimes just for ease. But yeah, I say human companion instead. So I'll go to see the human who I'm organizing the pet sitting with, and they'll tell me certain traits about their animal, like, oh, they're highly anxious, they bark all the time, they don't rest when there's fireworks. And so, I'll make, mental note of all these things. And then they move out and go on their holiday, and I move in with the animal, and that animal is completely different with me. So I've pet sat for an animal that was highly anxious, barked all the time. But when I arrived, it was a completely different dog, and it didn't bark. It was really, really relaxed. And when the son came round to the house to see the dog, he said, that's not our dog. He's like, did you switch dogs? But what had happened is that the animal had taken on the anxiety of the woman. So when she left, it didn't need to be that way with me because I was a very relaxed person. So then the dog was very relaxed with me. So when I go to see people's animals as well, they'll say they have an anticipation of how the animal will behave. But then when I get there, the animal behaves completely different. And they're like, oh, it doesn't normally do that. But it knows that I'm here to communicate with the animal. And yeah, they don't need to portray those behaviors. It's so interesting.
Mm, it is. Did you end up having a chat with that dog about it, or did you not need to?
Yeah, I ended up clearing a past life for that particular dog with its owner. So our animals reincarnate with us over and over again. And yeah, when I ask the animal sometimes, where's the source of this anxiety, or where's the source of this physical problem or behavioral issue, sometimes they're taking me into past lives. So sometimes it's a trauma from this life. So they had a trauma in their puppyhood or kittenhood or whatever animal it is. And sometimes it's a past life with their human companion. So they'll show me what happened in the past life, and they may be exhibiting a behavior to try and say to their human, hey, do you remember when this happened before? And so they're kind of exhibiting a behavior which may appear very unusual, but to them it's the only way they can communicate to their human that hey, this is what happened before, remember what happened before, because what they're actually wanting is for the human to let the past life go. So when I come to see the animal, and I can share, you know, the animal can say to me, this is what happened in the past life, then I can share that with their human companion. And once they've understood what happened, and we've kind of, yeah, got the wisdom from that past life, we can release the energy of it. And when we release the energy of it, we release it from the body of the animal, but also from the body of the human family. So whether that's one person or 5 people, so everybody gets the healing in the session. It's not, when I go to see an animal, it's not just what's your favorite food and, you know, where do you like to sleep? It's not a simple conversation. It's like, what past lives have you had with your human family? What are you here for? What's your soul contract with these people? What are you helping them to learn? Are there any spirits in the house disturbing you? There's so many different things that can come up in a communication with an animal. It's absolutely profound. But yeah, when we clear the past life, we're clearing the fears, the emotions, the beliefs that are coming from the past life, but also the physical weakness in the body connected with that past life. So I saw a cat very early on in my career as an animal communicator that had a bent spine. And the vets saw it and they said, it looks like it's been hit by a car. And the lady said, it's never been outside. It can't have been hit by a car. But when I went to speak to it, it said it got hit by a car in its previous life at 13 years old. So what happened is, in this life at 13 years old, the spine then gave the same symptoms as the past life. So the cat hadn't been hit by a car, but the cellular memory of the body went, oh, I remember what happened at 13 in the last life. So it created the same disease in the body. So when I cleared the past life, the people who, after I'd done the session, the people said within 12 hours they couldn't believe it, just the spine started to straighten again and the cat could walk again. So it went from not being able to jump or anything to running up the stairs and jumping on the kitchen top. It was unbelievable, like how quickly the cat changed its body from releasing the past life. So this happens for animals, but it also happens for people as well. So if you have a physical condition in your body that you don't know where it's come from, you've not had an injury on, it's just come out of nowhere, it could actually be connected to the way you died in a previous life, or an injury from a previous life that's in your cellular memory.
Wow. So you work with humans on that, like separate from animals too, hey?
Yeah, so like, you know, I'm working a lot with animals at the moment, but sometimes I'm finding the animals are calling me out to help the humans, you know. So yeah, I work with animals and people, but I also do just individual sessions with people. So you don't have to have an animal to come and see me. You could just come and see me for a past life healing or a past life regression, where I take you through the life, and then you can have an awareness of who you were before, what kind of life you were having, what you were learning about, but also like, what trauma did you receive to your body, what disease did you experience, and are you holding any of that in your cellular memory? Because when you release the past life, you can release the cellular memory from this body, and then this body can heal itself. You don't have to continue suffering with those physical diseases in your
Okay,
body.
I'm much more interested. I've kind of had past life, like known about different past life things, but whoa, you mean my body can feel better? That's pretty attractive.
Yeah, I know. You know, so um, say for example, you were hung in a past life at 35. In this life, you could have had no problems with your neck. And then you could get to 35 and suddenly you're like, oh, I can't turn my neck. Why can't I turn my neck? And then you go and see chiropractors. I'm sure I'm probably saying this for a reason. You go and see chiropractors, you go and see people, and nobody can diagnose why you've got a neck problem. But then when you go and look into your past lives and you see what happened before, see the emotions that are still being held there about why were you hung in the past life? Were you being hung for being a witch and now you're scared to show your healing abilities because that's what happened before and you don't want it to happen again, as an example? In releasing the past life, you can release the physical pain in your body, but you can also release the fears of being seen, the fears of embracing your psychic gifts, for example, if you're a witch in your past life. So yeah, it's amazing. I've had some really profound results with my clients where they just release things that they've had all their life. And then when they access the past life it was connected to, it can go away, it can transmute.
Wow, I had made a note that I wanted to ask you if your things outside animal communication came into animal communication, your skills, angelic Reiki, Pleiadian, light work and stuff. But clearly the answer is yes.
Everything comes in. I'm finding now that really my sessions, I mean, I've got my therapies listed separately on my website, but I feel like they should all just be one, really, because I mean, I do mediumship, so I speak to people that have passed over. And, you know, and originally I was doing individual readings where people were contacting me and speaking to a loved one, but I'm finding all of that's coming in as well. So, you know, I'm going speaking to animals, and, there was a woman calling me and she said, my cats won't come into the house. Can you ask them why they won't come in? The dogs will come in, but the cats won't come in. And when I spoke to the cats, they said, yeah, there's a spirit in the house that won't let us in. Like, he hates cats. He hates cats, but loves dogs. And so the spirit was literally shooing the cats out of the house. So nobody else could see this spirit, but the cats and the dog could see it. And so as soon as I spoke to the spirit and released him from the house, the cats came back in the house again. So animals are very sensitive to spirit as well. So I'm finding in a lot of my sessions, the animals are asking me to release any spirits from the buildings, or that are kind of following their humans around as well. They're very aware of it. So if your animal's behaving very unusually, or it's kind of watching things in the room that you can't see, then it may be that you've got a spirit presence in your house, whether that's somebody you're related to or just somebody that lived in that house or liked the look of you and decided to come home with you. Yeah. So yeah, everything's kind of merging together, and when I show up for a session now, I'm like, what's required here? I don't go in with an idea of what's required. It's, whether it's a person or an animal, I'm just listening and asking, is it past life? Do I need to do Pleiadian light work? Do I need to speak to spirit? Do I need to talk to an animal? What's going on? And each session is uniquely different. And that's what I love about it as well. It's almost like, I mean, when I was little, I loved doing puzzles, solving puzzles, and it's a little bit like that. It's like, what's required here to shift this? And then I'm using all of my tools to help that person or that animal to have more ease in their life, really.
And you don't necessarily have to be in the house with the animal?
No, I don't have to do any of my sessions in person. So if I'm local to people, like I'm in Nelson, New Zealand at the moment, then I'll go to people's houses and see their animals in person, but it's not required. I can communicate with animals through just a photograph. I ask for a photograph with the animal looking at the camera so that I can connect with their eyes, because that's what I do when I'm communicating telepathically. I often connect with their eyes. And then, I can connect in with them energetically and speak to them that way. So, and even with people, I don't need to see them in person. I can just see them online or work with them distantly. And with houses as well, I can tune into properties and see what spirits are there without having to actually walk into the property. I can just view it from a distance and see what's going on there.
And have you always had this ability, or have you honed it along the way? How did you get into this line of work?
When I was a child, I definitely saw spirits a lot. It scared me as a child. And I was communicating with animals as well, but I thought everybody was. So, I had this really amazing rabbit that went everywhere with me, and it was like the wonder rabbit of the neighborhood. Everyone was really fascinated by him. But I just thought everybody was doing that. And then, as you get older and you realize it's not normal, I shut my gifts down, and for a long time I suppressed my psychic abilities. And then when I was 28, I had a massive spiritual awakening. I realized now, looking back, that I used work as a way to suppress my abilities. So when we have a fear of our psychic gifts, we might suppress them in different ways through overworking or drinking or taking drugs, smoking, overeating. There's lots of different ways we can suppress our gifts. I used work and alcohol as a way to suppress mine. And when I was 28, I quit all my jobs. I had 3 jobs at the time, and I went traveling. So I went from working all day, every day, to suddenly not working. And within like 2 or 3 weeks of traveling, like my psychic abilities just awakened very, very rapidly. I was seeing spirits again. I was knowing things about people in my dormitory room without knowing how I knew. I was having like tingling sensations in my hands when I was around people who said they were in pain. There was like this energy coming from my hands. And so I started to realize I was a healer, and that I could channel this energy. And I didn't really have anyone who understood what I was going through. So a lot of the time I really have had to kind of mentor myself through it. So I read a lot of books. I did find some teachers. I went and trained in past life regression. I trained in Usui Reiki. I trained in angelic Reiki. Once I trained in angelic Reiki, that kind of awakened my telepathic communication with animals. That's when I had my first experience of a cat talking to me. I was in my angelic Reiki teacher's house, and I heard this voice in my head say, I've got a sore leg. And I was sat in a kitchen on my own, as far as I was aware. And I had this thought, and I was like, I don't have a sore leg. And I looked down on the floor, and there was this cat staring at me. And I got the thought again, I've got a sore leg. And that was my first experience as an adult, realizing that actually I could receive telepathic communication from animals. I also started seeing people's past lives almost like stood behind them. So say I was seeing somebody, I would also see the past life character stood behind them saying, this is what happened to them in a past life. This was after my angelic Reiki training. And so I had to kind of get used to these abilities awakening. I started seeing spirits really strongly again. And then I went and trained in Pleiadian light work. So I actually traveled to Australia and did 5 levels in Pleiadian light work, and then trained to be a teacher of that as well. So that's more of a like multi-dimensional healing, where I'm looking at the energy field of the person or the animal, and I'm looking at soul contracts that they've set up with people in their lives, and beliefs that they're holding in their body that's holding them back from being the most authentic version of themselves. And I'm helping them to cancel those beliefs and reframe their belief systems. And there's lots of other things I can be doing, looking at past lives, looking at any implants or entities that are connected to the body, or there might be inner child work, things like that. But yeah, so I've done a lot of self-development work. I've done a lot of different training courses to get me to where I am, and to really clear my channel so that I can show up for people and my own stuff's not getting in the way. I've spent 15 years clearing a lot of my own past lives, a lot of my own beliefs, a lot of contracts with people that I'd set up to kind of hold me back from being the most powerful version of myself, because I was scared. I was scared that if I show myself to the world, I'll be taken down, because it's happened so many times before. So that fear was sitting in my system.
Do you also teach people how to like clear their own past lives and things as well?
Yeah, I do. I have a course called Past Life Healing, and I teach people to tune into their own lives, the lives of animals, the lives of their clients, their friends. So yeah, I've been teaching that in person up until now. I'm feeling quite inspired to put that online now. So that's something that I'm hoping to do in the near future, to get that online so it's much more accessible. I get a lot of people asking me for that. And there's so much power in clearing your past lives, as you can understand, because of all the things we've experienced before, which have brought us to who we are today. You know, we had those experiences for a reason, but we don't need to be in this life still living out the fears from our past lives. It's not serving us.
You don't know how timely that comment is.
Yeah. And it's time, right? It's time for all of us to step up and be the truest, most authentic versions of ourselves, because we chose to bring our gifts to the world. And one of my strongest gifts is animal communication. And I'm really passionate about awakening people to giving them the awareness that animals are just as evolved as us. They're not just an animal, they're a soul just like we are. And I don't see them as any less of a consciousness than humans, you know? I mean, they're so divine in their nature, and the wisdom that they share is just so profound, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I was somewhere and people were talking about horses and the way they reflect. But I guess it's all animals.
Yeah. I mean, all animals, yeah, and it's not just domesticated animals. I'm talking to wild animals as well. I mean, obviously people often call me out for their own animals, but yeah, I'm also can talk to the whales, the dolphins. You know, I absolutely love swimming with the dolphins and talking to them. That's a really big passion of mine, actually, and I'm really hoping to start doing more of that in the future, and taking people out into the water with the dolphins. And you know, they're so healing. They send their sonar into your body, and they're able to detect anywhere that you're holding on to anything in your body, and they can actually clear it with their sonar, which is why a lot of people are so drawn to swim with the dolphins, especially when they've got life-threatening illnesses, because the dolphins can actually send healing to them with their sonar frequencies.
Wow.
Mm.
I did go out to go swim with the dolphins recently, but there were babies, so we weren't allowed to get in the water.
Mm.
But then a dolphin came about 10 meters away on the Southland. But
Nice.
I'm trying to kind of go, come closer, but it wasn't coming much closer. One of the others got a little bit more attention, so good on him.
Yeah, and sometimes when you just release your expectations, they'll come closer as well. I've noticed that, you know. Yeah.
It was pretty
It,
cold though. You'd be wanting to swim with dolphins, taking people out somewhere just a bit warmer than
yeah, well, that's what I'm feeling, because I've swum with dolphins in Kaikoura probably about 10 times now. I absolutely love it, but it is so cold. Like sometimes you can barely breathe when you get in the water. Whereas last year I went to the Bahamas, and you know, here you're wearing a full wetsuit with a hood. So, you know, if you're claustrophobic, it's a little bit like, oh, but I went to the Bahamas and I'm just in a bikini, you know, just jumping in the water. It's like getting into a lukewarm bath. And the water is so clear that you can see the dolphins for miles away, you know, like maybe not miles, but like a long way away. And it's so beautiful. And that's actually my vision, is like next year I would love to take a group of people swimming in the Bahamas with the dolphins. Like that's my dream, to start doing that, taking people somewhere tropical and having that experience. Because yeah, I swam with them for over a week, and it was just absolutely magical. And it does change you. Like when I had a dolphin swim underneath me, and something in my energy just changed. I can't even describe it in words, but it made me emotional. Something shifted, and I was like, oh, you know, I don't know what that dolphin did, but it was amazing. It just, yeah, I feel like everyone should swim with dolphins, but I mean, it's, you know, it's not everyone's thing, but yeah, I absolutely love it.
well,
Mm.
I'll file that one away as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah.
that'd be amazing.
Mm.
Mm, mm.
Yeah.
What I also found interesting is that when you went traveling when you were 28, that kind of lines up with it does line up with the Saturn return, which is yeah, that kind of point where
Yeah.
Saturn comes back to where it was in your chart, and things shift. People have shifted. I mean, some people get married or divorced or have children or just kind of have like an opening into their adult life, which is what I felt that I had at that point, and it certainly sounds like you did.
Yeah, I was very aware of the significance of that, because it was just before 28, I think, when I went, or I just turned 28. Yeah. So yeah, it was a very profound time for me to have that awakening. And I kind of feel another shift coming now. So, you know, I've been doing sessions for 15 years with people, and, you know, I kind of feeling more now that I want to mentor people to be able to offer animal communication themselves. So I'm kind of looking to teach the practitioners more now, so that I can step away from doing sessions all the time and actually pass that on to other people, because I actually would love to write a book about my experiences. And so, you know, I want to take some time away to do that, and not be busy every week with sessions. So yeah, I'm kind of looking to mentor people more as well, that really want to step up into this line of work, or any of the lines of work, you know, mediumship or anything really. That's kind of where I feel like I'm heading now. Yeah, and put my courses online as well, so it's much more accessible for people.
Yeah, it's just interesting because that Saturn return happening. I wonder if next year, when you have Saturn opposition, it's going to be 180 degrees from where Saturn was when you were born. It'll be interesting to see kind of what happens then. And in the interim, you know, there's some other, like the Uranus shake up and
Yeah,
Neptune, Neptune kind of spiritual kind of opening up that's all happening. It's all kind of go. I mean, we're a similar,
yeah.
so it's like this year,
It's
next year, it's
44.
all go.
It's 44 then, that's significant again, the next stage.
Well, it actually really depends on where the planets were when you were born. So I've got friends that are within 6 months, like 3-4 months older and younger than me, but they've already had their Uranus experience, and it's over. And so, for example, you're a few months younger than me, and you had your Pluto square experience quite a bit earlier than I did. It just depends on how fast the planets are moving when you're born. So it's so some people say it's 40 to 42 for this Uranus opposition, but for me it's 44.
Yeah, okay. I
Yeah.
didn't know that 42 was a very powerful age, and I did a lot of self-development work at 42, like that
Mm.
whole year. I was just constantly on trainings and self-development retreats and really, you know, doing much more work with myself at that time.
Yeah, and they say that they traditionally it's called a midlife crisis, but I like to call it midlife unraveling, like based on Brene Brown essay, because we're kind of like, okay, well, what are these social expectations? It's time to like throw the caution to the wind. If we're not already doing that, it's like life's going to force us into that. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
definitely feel I'm here to live outside the box. I don't feel like I've followed any of the norms, so to speak, of like, you know, you do this and then you do that and you do, I feel like I'm doing everything jumbled up and just breaking the paradigms or whatever it's the word is I'm looking for.
the
The
world
norm.
needs us.
Sorry?
The world needs us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because there's another way to do things, you know.
Yeah.
And it's funny because when I first started talking to animals, I was so shy about it, you know. I was like, this is not a thing, this is not useful, not, you know. And you know, I had people reflecting back to me like, oh, you know, you're crazy, you're going to get locked up. And there was a lot of fear there around my gifts awakening, but now I'm just so comfortable with it myself that I don't receive those reflections anymore, and even if I did, it doesn't bother me because I know my truth, you know. So yeah, it's really interesting how on your journey of awakening your own gifts as well, there can be that fear that arises of, what are people going to think of me, this isn't normal. But now I quite like that I'm not normal, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, me too.
yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So if people want to I don't get in touch with you for whatever reason, whether that's clearing their own past lives or their animals, or finding out about any of the amazing work that you offer or mentorship or anything like that, how do they find you?
So I've got a website which is rebeccagambles.com. And I do have a few short online courses there as well that people can do in their own time. So there is actually a past life regression recording on there that you can purchase, and you can actually go and explore your own past life with me kind of guiding you and holding space. Yeah, and then I've got all my information about my therapies on there and the courses that I offer. And I do also have 2 Facebook pages as well. So one of them is Rebecca Gamble's Heavenly Connections, and I also have an Rebecca Gamble's Animal Communicator. And on my Animal Communicator page, I share stories of things that animals have said to me, like some really interesting stories. So it's quite good to go on there and just have a read of some of the things that animals have said. I can send you the actual official links. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
read some of
one.
those stories. They're
Yeah,
so great.
it's so great. Yeah, I absolutely love writing the stories about animals. Like, they just make me smile so much, you know. And I absolutely love talking to animals. One of the things I love the most is they just say it exactly as it is, you know. Sometimes if you're talking to a person, they can kind of, you know, skirt around the outsides or try to be nice, but an animal will just be like, this is the problem, this is what's going on, and it's just very black and white, you know. And I really respect that. It's very honest communication, and it's so refreshing, and I just love it, you know. So they don't have this need to be nice and try and soften things. They just go, this is what's going on.
I was
So
thinking all those questions that you ask the animals about past lives and all that kind of thing. I guess I'm just imagining you like asking a human all those questions and them just kind of going, huh?
yeah, I know the animals like, oh, so they've had this past life and there's this spirit walking around the house and this is happening and da da da, you know. And yeah, for sure, like they're just so open, they're so aware as well, you know, they remember. So yeah. But then when I do share what the animals said, like often it will resonate with the person that, you know, they'll go, oh yeah, that makes sense actually. Or on some level they knew it, you know. I'll tell them something, they go, you know what, I knew that and I didn't trust it. And so I'm just there validating what they already know, which I love, because that's empowering them then to know they actually knew as well, because we are all actually communicating with our animals daily. So, you know, you might be sat watching TV, for example, and then suddenly you get the vision of the dog's water bowl's empty, and you think that that was your thought, but actually the dog was sending you a thought, hey, can you fill my water up please, I've got no water. So you think that you had the thought, but actually the animal sent it to you, you know. Or you might just suddenly go, oh, I'm going to go for a walk with the dog was probably sat there going, hey, I want to go for a walk, you know. So we are receiving telepathic communication all the time. We just don't realize sometimes. But people are very aware of their animals. They're aware of their personalities. And so when I'm communicating to them what the animal's saying, they're like, oh, of course, that makes so much sense. And sometimes it even brings tears to their eyes, because on a soul level, they know what I'm speaking is the truth, and it really hits them that it's really the truth that I'm saying to them. And then they can acknowledge what's coming up and let that go as well. Yeah. So it's beautiful work to do. I absolutely love it. Yeah, and I am excited to write a book, because I think then more people can have awareness of how animals are helping us in our lives,
Oh,
Yeah.
that sounds so exciting, and I hope you get to write that soon, because I'm sure
Yeah.
lots of people. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Sure.
Thanks so much for joining me,
You're
Rebecca.
welcome.
Such a fascinating topic, and it wasn't even all about animals.
I know. I feel like we could have just talked for hours.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think I'll be going and checking out your website again. So,
Yeah. I am going
and
to update it soon, because it's looking a bit old at the moment, so I will update it soon. But
that's what we always think about our websites, right?
yeah, I know it's never good enough, right? Yeah, I will send you the links to my Facebook as well.
Yeah, and I'll put them in the show notes so people have.
Yeah, so it's easy to check them out as well. Yeah.
Great,
Cool. Well, thank you for having me.
and thank you. Welcome to the music section of the show. If you've listened to these podcasts over the summer, you'll know that I've been at some summer festivals and even recording podcasts there. When I looked back at the videos of the song that I wanted to share today, the array of background festival sounds is hilarious. There's either general chatting, which is normal, cicadas, also very normal. But I did find one where Marcel Hoff was leading breathwork really loudly in the background. He's Wim Hof's brother, so like kind of a big name coming through New Zealand. And yeah, I kind of wanted to share. I thought that would be a good one. And then I heard him, come on, breathe. And I was like, okay, that's not quite the best one to choose. So I actually went back to the spring festival in Pukahina rather than from one of the summer festival travels, just because the sound was better. It is the first recording I've shared of me playing on keyboard, possibly butterfingery, but hey, that's authentic. It's not out for general release. This is the first time it's been released on the ether. So here is Once. I recommend listening carefully to the chorus. The sound is such that the vocals are louder than the keys, so that shouldn't be too much trouble. Enjoy.
Once upon a time, there was a beautiful princess, and her brave, shining eyes came riding in to the castle. He rode with his handsome steed, getting ready to go down on bended knee. But there's not any happy endings in the real world. Life continues always with its ups and downs. We enjoy the happy ever afters in the movies, 'cause we like to imagine the same thing for ourselves. Once upon a time, there was a beautiful gypsy, full of grief and sunshine and some flaws. The nights, they came by for a time, but they moved along pretty fast. There was time aplenty to ponder the cause. There's not any happy endings in the real world. Life continues always with its ups and downs. We enjoy the happy ever afters in the movies, cause we like to imagine the same thing for ourselves. Once upon a time, there was a beautiful woman searching and seeking and learning to grow and hurting, recovering, rebounding back strong, dealing with life, learning to go with the flow. But there's not any happy endings in the real world. Life continues always with its ups and downs. We enjoy the happy ever afters in the movies, cause we like to imagine the same thing for ourselves. And often it feels like we've been suckered in, that life is supposed to be perfect. The dream becomes a nightmare over and over again. It feels like a soap opera circuit. There's not any happy endings in the real world. Life continues always with its ups and downs. We enjoy the happy ever afters in the movies, so we like to imagine the same thing for ourselves. But once upon a time, there was a soul who learned that the beauty of life is always in the now.
Unraveling Midlife is brought to you from Aotearoa, New Zealand by www.sarahmarlowspence.com. Theme music is by Sarah Marlowe Spence and Saraswati Marie Willis, and art by Samantha Hepburn.